Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. It is Friday the 6th of September 2024. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We've got some regulars in the chat like Plum Duff and Billy Kershaw, Stephanie Wilson, and hopefully we'll get some newbies in the chat. If you'd like to join us this morning in the live and interactive conversation that we're going to have, simply subscribe to the channel. That's all you need to do. And wait for 30 seconds. Lofty the Softy is in there as well. We've got Sonic Shadow. We've also got Roger Haslock saying good morning all. And Godmill, hello, with a little gif of Minor Willie. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about Grenfell this morning, which obviously is a bit of a heavy topic. 72 people died in 2017 as a result of a combination of incompetence, greed, malice, and indifference. So there you go. A bunch of things there. One of the big things, obviously, is that cladding was put on this building that was designed in the 60s or whenever it was built to contain fires on each level. So the fire wasn't supposed to be able to get from, say, level 3 to level 4, level 5, level 6, right? However, if you put flammable cladding on the outside of the building, let's say you put wood, let's say you put some flammable pine, untreated wood on the outside of the building, those flames could climb up the pine and get into other parts of the building. Which seems pretty self-evident. Now, I don't know if you ever remember your chemistry classes in GCSE or O-levels, depending on how old you are. Did you ever do that thing where you get a bit of aluminium powder and you put it on a splint and you put it into the Bunsen burner? Yeah. So pretty much a little bit more, there's a little bit more chemistry to it, but essentially that's what happened on the outside of the Grenfell Tower, because it wasn't made of wood. It was made of, metal, and it had this aluminium compound in it that went up like a firecracker. And as a result, the people who were in the building, who had been told if there's a fire, stay where you are because you'll be safe, were lied to because they weren't safe because of this fire on the outside of the building. The fire brigade that turned up didn't realise that, oh, hang on, this building's got dangerous cladding on it. That means that people need to get out. The worst thing we could possibly tell people to do is to stay where they are, but that's what people were told. And in a panic situation, you do exactly what you're told, or at least you should do. Obviously, some people freeze in one of these situations, but it's a remarkable statistic that most people, the majority of people survive plane crashes, but they don't get out the plane quick enough before it goes on fire, because they freeze. And generally speaking, if there's someone there shouting instructions, you will just go straight into, follow instructions to get me out of this situation mode. This happened in the middle of the night. People were asleep, half awake. And you can imagine in a situation like that, that's the entire room you're in, and the corridor outside is bathed in black smoke and you can't see anything. So a lot of failings led to this horrific disaster, which should never have happened. I can't stress this enough. Things like this don't happen. Really? Do they? If they do, they happen in a developing nation where there were bribes and money was, passed between. But even then, usually there's an earthquake or a flood or some bad weather or something. But this wasn't caused by any act of God. This was caused by the fact that there were people who wanted to make money, and they cheated and they lied and they set everything up that they possibly could to make Grenfell happen. Now, the government has apologised. Kensington Council have apologised. The three companies that were responsible for the manufacture and the installation of the cladding have not apologised. In fact, in many cases, they've doubled down and said, it's not our fault, Jack. Right. Which is, eternally frustrating. But then we get today, we get Lord Macdonald, who is a former deputy, he's a former prosecutor, just like chief prosecutor just like Keir Starmer was at one point in a former life. And he was saying today that it is unlikely that any of this will go even to trial for another 5 years, until 2029. And there's this line, and it's very true: justice delayed is justice denied. Yes, it was good that after 25 years, the victims' families of the Hillsborough tragedy finally got their day in court, where they got to find out, that all of their loved ones were unlawfully killed. That was a good thing that happened there. But at the same time, no one went to jail for the crimes that they committed. No one went to jail for the fact that 97 football fans died. 96 on the day, another one years later, due to injuries sustained at the match. The guy who was in charge of operations that day, Duckenfield, he walks free to this day. He should be in jail, as far as I'm concerned, as far as many people are concerned, because it's not just incompetence. It's the indifference, the absolute indifference, the feeling that these people must have who are in these positions of power, looking at the people who live in somewhere like Grenfell and just going, I don't care about it. I have no feelings about these people whatsoever. I don't care if they live or die. And that's the way a lot of people in the county, in the city, the council, it wasn't a city, part of a city, the council, a lot of people working at these companies just had this very blasé attitude of, well, it's not my children. It's not my husband. It's not my wife. It's not my brother, not my sister, not my mum or dad. Why do I care? And that delay, 5 years, is absolutely monstrous. There is no good reason at all for there to be a 5-year wait for justice, if ever, right? But at least it's going to be 5 years, unless the Starmer government, the Labour government, do something to expedite the situation, which is something that they definitely need to do. As a former director of public prosecutions, this is something that Keir Starmer, this should be in his wheelhouse. So why is it going to take so long? Well, there's a few factors here, one of which is austerity. The same austerity that one of the reasons it caused the fire in the first place, cutbacks, the pulling away of funding for essential services, fire inspection, all that kind of stuff. There was also the fact that the Tories, because they're scum, cut back a lot of money going to the justice system. So this feeds back into one of the reasons. So it's austerity on one degree, and then it's another degree of austerity, because of austerity, we have such a backlog in our legal system. A backlog which means that rapists are walking the streets in this country because of the backlog in court cases. Whether you go to court is, you're more likely not to, especially in a case of sexual assault. And so the courts are all plugged up. The police, the Metropolitan Police, again, showering themselves with such glory. Don't you love the Metropolitan Police, eh? The gang of murderers, rapists, people who go around assaulting and arresting women at vigils for a murdered woman who was murdered by a police officer. The corruption in the Met runs so deep. Why aren't they jumping on this straight away? Why aren't they going, right, that's it, we don't need to do an investigation. It's just been done. We just had a massive 7-year inquiry, for Christ's sake. Like, we've got the evidence. It's fine. It's there. We've got it. We've got the testimonies. We've got everything. We can take all that evidence. We can go and arrest people. And you know what? If it takes 5 years to come to court, they can sit and hold themselves for 5 frickin' years, can't they? This ridiculous system we've got where we've got bail. So if you're dead rich, you don't have to be in a holding cell. But if you're not dead rich, you have to stay in a holding cell until your trial. And don't forget, these companies are just doubling down. They're just saying, no, it wasn't our fault. We did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong. You know, there were some bad apples in the past. You know, there's some problems in the past. But no, we've had a thorough internal investigation, and we sorted everything out. No, 72 people are dead. Heads must roll for this. People must go to jail for this. Or do you know what? It'll happen again and again and again. It'll keep on happening until the rich and the powerful are actually held to account for their crimes. Gareth T, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. That's very kind of you this morning. Morning, Gray. Don't forget the residents were threatened by the management company for speaking out on social media long before the fire. Yeah, the management company of the building need to take responsibility as well. Whoever crafted those messages or emails to send to residents to say, shut up about the safety fears. And don't forget, there's now a famous blog that was written in December, I think, of 2016, before just a few months before the actual tragedy, explaining exactly what was going to happen. And it did. It was terrifying, absolutely terrifying, that the people who lived in that building were more aware of the safety concerns than the people who were supposed to be looking after the building. But this goes down to the root of the whole evil, that is people who are in charge of accommodation, be it a tower block, be it a private residence that's, you know, being rented out, or an old person's home, even a care home. If they do not step up to the mark, there's very little in the law to force them to. And that's got to change. It's absolutely got to change. You have responsibilities as an owner of a property. And if you put people in that property and you take money off those people for the delight of living in your slum, then I'm sorry, but you are completely responsible for any shit that goes down in that property. It's so depressing how people in power just get away with the most evil things. Alvone, you're absolutely right. And we're not happy about it. So, again, call to action. Write to your MP. Write to your MP about this and say, hey, can you just explain to me why it's going to take 5 years for justice to even, the wheels of justice to even start turning? It doesn't matter that your MP isn't the MP for Kensington or whatever the constituency is. That doesn't matter. What matters is that MPs in Parliament, Labour MPs, the vast majority of them now are Labour MPs, understand that we are really, really concerned about this and we won't let it lie. No, I always think of The Shawshank Redemption, one of, if not the best movies in the world. There's a bit where Andy Dufresne, the main character, he keeps writing to the prison board or whatever for a library. He wants books, he wants a library, and he just keeps writing every day. And in the end, they send him books just to shut him up, just to stop him writing to them. We can do the same thing, because MPs, your MP, you can't write to someone else's, but your MP has to respond to you as a constituent. So if you have a particular bugbear, honestly, to take the time to craft a quick email to them saying, I am concerned about this. And you can tie it to your constituency. The best thing you can do is to say, this happened in Grenfell. These people are getting away with it. What are you doing to stop the same thing happening in this constituency, in this particular tower block or this particular residential area where I live, or near where I live, or where my loved one lives, my loved ones live. Jesus Christ, get it out, Graham. Welcome to Friday. So I'm going to read a few of the comments before we dive into the newspapers, unfortunately. Alistair says why the bill got passed the law to make it mandatory now. Colin says, if you go to Queen's Park Rangers to White City from White City Stadium, look to your right before... What's QPR? Is it Queen's Park Rangers? Look to your right before turning into South Africa Road. You can't miss Grenfell. Just pause for a few seconds before going the game. Yeah. If you take the train, the train into London, which one is it? It's the one for Twickenham. Uh, it's really, really obvious. You can see Grenfell from a mile away. It's really sad. Is it Twickenham or is it? No, actually, I think it's the one that you take from Battersea. If you go past Battersea Power Station, I don't know. My geography of London's not that great. Um, I was thinking about the other guys in the Leeds Tower block, Scotland legal system better than the rest of Torytopia. So Siren, yeah. Well, we are living in a Tory dystopia at the moment. And that isn't going to be fixed for a while, but there are some things they can do right away. So I mentioned the police, they could be investigating right away, and also the government can expedite these charges against these companies and the people working for those companies. The government has that power to do that. The Home Office can do that. The Attorney General can push for that. So if Labour are in charge now, they're not a party of protest anymore. They can actually get this shit done. Lee says, when I joined the Labour Party, I went to a welcome meeting where I met the councillor. Almost the first thing she said to me was the cladding on the high-rise flats were not flammable. Oh, wow. Well, that's good. I hadn't even mentioned it, or Grenfell. Good. So, I mean, obviously this is going to be on the minds of a lot of Labour MPs. They aren't Tories and not out there just necessarily to feather their own nests. If they were, they would be Tories. I can't stress this enough. Anyone who claims that anyone in the left is doing that job in order to feather their own nest, you got to take a step back and go, hang on. There's feathers and there's feathers. Like, seriously, like, if you were evil and you just wanted to get into a position of power to make money, why would you be left-wing? Why on earth would you go to the left? You would totally go to the right. And you'd be surrounded by cronies who are doing the same thing. You'd be pushing for policies that meant that you and your cronies don't have to pay any taxes on your ill-gotten wealth. I mean, there's so many things where you're just like, you would be a Tory. Like, I was having this conversation, I told you, with Femi a couple of months ago, where we pointed out that, it's hard work running these channels and getting people to watch and getting people on board. And, you're working every single day. Whereas Nigel Farage turns up for an hour on Gammon Box News and he gets paid 100,000 freaking pounds or something ridiculous. And you're like, what? Why is he? What? But yeah, he's a right-wing grifter. So if you are going to be a grifter, be a right-wing grifter, because you will make so much more money. I would make so much more money. Femi, he's black. He will make a mountain of money going on all the talk show panel shows, the Gammon Box News, writing a column in one of the major newspapers, going on about, God, woke people, eh? He would make an absolute mint. We wouldn't be sleeping on the floor of Airbnbs. I can tell you that now. I've been represented by 8 or 9 MPs so far. They don't always respond, says number 3. That is bloody insane, mate. Bloody hell. That's some churn. Can I just ask, are you in a safe seat or a seat that just keeps changing between Tories and Labour? Alvone, I think maybe a drama like what happened with the post office might help. Casual, non-political people tend to notice when it's given to them as an ITV drama, so that might make action happen. Alvone says, yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Honestly, I think that just because of... this isn't a diss, I say this time and time again, but most people aren't into politics. It's not because they're bad people. It's not because they don't care about stuff. It's because they're busy. They've got their lives that they're getting on with, and a lot of people are struggling right now with just their lives, just the things that are happening, their family, their children, their work, their house where they live or their flat. There's a lot to be thinking about. And then in your downtime, are you going to do something you enjoy, like watch TV, play video games, or are you going to do something that's going to make you rage against the injustices of the world? I mean, yeah, I can totally see why most people would rather just sit down in front of the TV after a hard day at work. I totally get that, and I don't Like I say, I don't diss them for it. I think it's perfectly fine. It's like when people get all snooty about travelling. It drives me up the wall. Like, I have no problem with a family going on a beach holiday to Spain. It's fine. That's what they want to do. That's how they enjoy travelling. You know, people who go, oh, well, you haven't seen the real France, darling. Oh, have you been to India? Oh, but you haven't seen the real India. Oh, because you didn't travel there on a dhow. I mean, come on. Like, as someone who, could arguably be that way more than anybody else, I'm really not. I tried not to be snobbish about these things. And I understand that people just aren't into the same stuff that we're into. But if you tell them a story, if you intrigue them, if you show them it in a drama, which is the easiest way to get someone to understand the story, basically. I mean, it doesn't take the effort of going to the cinema to, actually watch a movie. It doesn't take the effort of reading a book, which takes a long time for a lot of us. You just sit down in front of the TV and the TV does all the work for you and tells you what's been happening and what's going on. And I think that's why dramas like Hillsborough and like the Mr. Bates versus the Post Office and things like that work really, really well, because they get through to people on an emotional level that I don't think reading news reports and having vox pops in the streets can really ever achieve, because we are hardwired to love stories. Everyone loves stories, even people who say, I don't like this, I don't like that, they'll always love stories. It just depends what format that story's being told to them in, and the storyteller, and whether they like the storyteller, whatever. But generally speaking, humans are hardwired to enjoy stories and to want to find out more and want to get to the end of the story. And I always found it interesting that in certain tribes in Australia, the Aboriginal tribes, they had no written language, so they would tell stories, and the stories would be a map. So they'll tell the kids fairy tales, and that story would be a map of the area. So they'll talk about the rainbow serpent laying some eggs, and that would be the rocky bit over there. And then they'll talk about these giant kangaroos that went on an adventure, and that would be where the giant, the big trees are, the giant trees. And by remembering the story, remembering the fairy tale, effectively, you learn the lay of the land, and it sticks in your head a lot better than any other way of remembering stuff, actually. Those what are they called? People who remember stuff, not a mentalist. There's a word like a Johnny mnemonic or something that they remember. Mnemonikists? I don't know. Anti-mnemonikists. They remember stuff. So they're given a list of items in a supermarket, or lists of like presidents of America or something, and they make a story about it. And this happens, and then they imagine them walking around a mind palace, or walking down the street and seeing all these different objects, and you remember the story, because it's easier to remember stories than just arbitrary facts. So this is something that I'm going to be going through with my stepdaughters when they're doing their GCSEs and A-levels. I'm going to be like, this is how you remember a list of stuff really, really easily. I did it for my A-levels. I saw it as cheating a little bit, because I was like, I'm going to remember all this stuff by a way I'm not supposed to remember it, but it worked. Anyway, mnemonics. But yeah, I'm going to just jump into the chat. Sorry, not the chat. I'm going to jump into the papers. Not actually physically, but they're going to appear on the screen now. So the Mirror leads with a monument for Queen Elizabeth. Yay! Thank God. And Prince William has facial hair. And then this evil scumbag, Jeremy Kyle, who I'm sure we're going to be talking about on the Politics Social later today. He's been defending himself in court after a man killed himself after being on his horrific TV show. By the way, Jeremy Kyle, like most Jeremys, went to private school. Anyway, we've got firm behind Grenfell refit blocked from closing down. And so Cavalier Architects await Blaze investigation, so that could be some good news. They can't just shut up shop and run away, like Cambridge Analytica did. Gargle with salty water to cut childhood colds by days. So there you go. There's some medical advice from the from the Times for some reason. Rwanda's back, but it's Germany planning to use it, and they want to put migrants in facilities Britain paid for. Yeah, good luck with that, Germany, even if that's true. And then the story of Lucy Letby, amid mounting claims that she's innocent. So this is going to run and run, isn't it? And then we've got Brexit food rules set for delay to avoid price rises at supermarkets in the newspaper there. What, another Brexit delay to implementing the rules that we voted for overwhelmingly by like 2%. An overwhelming majority of 2%. We've got no justice for Grenfell tragedy until next decade. That's on the front cover of The Guardian, which I was talking about today. And then the Paralympian won second gold in Paris, which is good. Well done, Alison Tai. And then we've got Macron defies the left by making Michel Barnier prime minister. And so it's quite interesting in France, right? The president chooses the prime minister, which is a bit of a weird system. But, you know, no weirder than what we have, where you allow anyone who's just been a member of the Tory party to vote, no matter whether they're British or not, to get to vote on who our next Prime Minister is. That's why we ended up with Liz Truss. And then we've got prisoners could serve their time in Estonia, which is an idea that's been floated to send British prisoners to Estonia because our prisons are overflowing. Plan to ease crowded jails. There you go. And as Germany says, it may use UK Rwanda facilities for migrants. You're not going to, Germany. Don't do it. It's a poison chalice. Do not pick up that poison chalice because you'll drink it and you'll age really, really fast in just a couple of seconds, and then you will literally explode into dust. I've seen it before. He chose poorly. And then Letby hires new barristers to try and overturn murder conviction. And then we've got Labour rebel fuel cut will kill pensioners. Hopefully the people who need the money the most will get it. That's the hope with this. What's happening with the fuel bonus. And the people who don't need it don't get it because you've got millionaires. You know, what does this money go to, like Rupert Murdoch? Oh no, he's not British. Does this money go to, like, I don't know, Lord Rothermere? Oh no, he's not. He doesn't actually live here. He lives in Bermuda. Well, I'm sure there are some British billionaires who actually live in this country. Not many, but I'm sure there are some who, get 300 quid off the government, weirdly, because reasons. And then Macron names Barnier as premier in bid to break deadlock in France. It's the front cover of the Financial Times. Daily Star's running with this beluga whale story. Mad Vlad had spy whale whacked, which... There was this idea that this beluga whale called Havalamia or something, Havaramia? Am I getting his name right? Was found a few years ago with some kind of tracking software. It said property of St. Petersburg on it, so everyone decided that it was a spy for. Well, not everyone. Some people decided it was a spy for the Russians for some reason. Daily Express. We're not greedy. Britain's elderly will do deal on fuel support. Okay. Well, that's them told, innit? Britain's elderly will do deal on fuel. It's like, okay, who's saying that? What? Okay. And is Kate behind William's dashing new look? He's sporting a beard, something I've done since I was very young. And it's not out of fashion. It was never a fashion thing. It's just I hate shaving. Just hate it. Every day, shaving. Sod that. Once every couple of weeks, if I can be asked. MPs will hold a vote on assisted dying. That's news on the Express there, but it's also good news, actually. Makes a change. And the Metro, leading with Jeremy Kyle, saying, "Don't blame me, I'm just the host," who calls working class people scum in front of a braying studio audience and millions of viewers at home. Yeah, it's just the host. I'm just the host. I'm just following orders. he says. Okay, and then we're into yesterday, so I'm going to knock that off now. So, yeah, let's see what you think about all this. We've got Kyle should be in prison, in my opinion, says Alvone. Absolutely. The footage shown of Jeremy Kyle yesterday was horrible. It absolutely was. Had the misfortune of meeting Kyle. What a patronising arsehole he is. He is, and it's why I call the private schools in this country, and I'm sorry to offend those of you who went to private school or those of you who got kids in private school. That's why I call them see you next Tuesday farms. And yes, not everyone who comes out of these schools turns out to be a wrong 'un. But I find it very interesting that on my list of people who weren't wrong 'uns, in my estimation, a few months ago, when I was writing the little script at the beginning of the disclaimer at the beginning of the private school mafia website, I mentioned a list of people, including Rick Mail, Aid Edmondson, Bill Pullman. Bill Pullman? What the hell is wrong with me? He's American. He's not even a writer. Philip Pullman. Philip Pullman, who wrote the Northern Lights trilogy. His Dark Materials, even. And I also mentioned Neil Gaiman, who's turned out to be a wrong 'un. Allegations been made, and there is audio available, if anyone dare listen to it, of him absolutely bang to rights. He has done some wrong things. He admits to it in the recording. So, yeah, I had to take him off the list of people that I didn't think that were that bad. So yeah, with a few notable exceptions, the vast majority of the people who attended British private schools turn out to be Tories. And even worse than that, they turn out to be... Oh no, I was going to say they turn out to be seen next Tuesday. Even worse than that, they turn out to be Tories. So I got that line the wrong way around. Someone shoot the script writer. But yeah, I'm going to get loads of shit now when my son goes to private school and he's not a see you next Tuesday. There are some exceptions. Your son is accepted. Your daughter is you're an exception. You're awesome. Stay that way. But we need you to fight against them. Like Robbie Coltrane did. Robbie Coltrane, cracker. He went to private school. Hagrid, of course he went, because he's an actor in Britain. I mean, like, they all went to private school, pretty much all of them. Like, seriously, you wouldn't believe the number of British actors who went to a posh school. Yeah, there's Christopher Eccleston, James McAvoy, Patrick Stewart. That's about it. Who didn't? Anyway, moving on. Nick, the worst part about boarding school was being woken up every morning at 7 a.m. to go down to the refectory for bread and jam. Well, that was the worst thing in boarding school, mate. I think you got out quite lightly after some of the stories that I've heard. OMG. One of the things that really, really pisses me off in TV shows and movies, right? And this is... Because don't forget, so basically the aristocracy, you've got to look at it like an aristocracy, because they effectively are. Because it's all to do with blood. It's all to do with who your mummy and daddy were, right? So it's a form of aristocracy. Let's call it a neo-aristocracy. Everyone involved in the film industry or the TV industry, pretty much in the UK, are part of this aristocracy, right? And so this is why nearly all the dramas we make are nearly always about the aristocracy. We make so many period dramas. It makes my head hurt thinking about how many we make. Meanwhile, we make no sci-fi stuff, apart from like Doctor Who, which is like not serious sci-fi. It's fantasy sci-fi, like Star Wars. And it's just painful. Like you watch something like Saltburn, which was made by someone who went to private school in Britain, and they make out like this kid who joins this aristocratic family is just there to kill them all and take all their money. And I'm like, like that's the story that you really wanted to tell. Okay. But yeah, it's one of the most frustrating things is when they pick someone, and I'm not going to pick on Barry Keoghan for doing this because he had a very troubled upbringing, actually. He didn't go to private school. But other actors who shall remain nameless, when they play someone working class, or who's pretending to be posh, but really they had a hard upbringing in a working class family, one of those two tropes, and I'm just sitting there going, is Is this pleb face? Can we call this pleb face? Is this what it is? These aristocrats pretending to be working class? If we're going to have rules about, quite sensibly to say, hey, if you're going to have a black character in this, in this, you can't have a white person black themselves up. Because that would be a bit culturally insensitive. Maybe we should start thinking about casting working class actors in working class roles. And everyone's going to go, but Graham, acting is just pretending. I'm not really Gandalf. Sir Ian. Jodie Comer, Stephen Graham, a couple of Scousers there. No, they did go to private school. Steve Coogan definitely went to a comp. He did indeed. There was a great talk by Carol Vorderman about the lack of diversity in television. Yes, she did that at the Edinburgh TV, and it was like a TV and film event, I think. But yeah, she was brilliant, and she mentioned StopTheTories.com in there as well, so well worth watching. Eccleston does a lot of work to fight homelessness. I love Christopher Eccleston. I mean, he might not have been my favourite Doctor, but he's my favourite Doctor, if you know what I mean. Like, I've loved him since Cracker and Our Friends in the North. He is just a fantastic actor. He's one of the best. Have you looked at Welsh actors? Yeah, actually. Okay, so, yeah, Anthony Hopkins, he didn't go to private school. I don't think Richard Burton did. Yeah, Catherine Zeta-Jones, she's not on my list. No, yeah, so Welsh, Scottish, let's just say English. Can we just say English actors? Generally speaking, English actors. Very posh. Part of the upper echelons of society, darling. Michael Sheen, he's Welsh. So, yes, this gets me out of this because I can just say, well, he's Scottish, he's Welsh. Carol is a champion, she was indeed. Auntie Esther says, when I was at university, upper class dominated the drama group. No working class students got to play upper class characters, but the other way around was common. Exactly. Peter Capaldi, no, he didn't go to private school, and he's Scottish. So I think we're doing quite well here. Yeah. Eccleston was great in the A Word. Eccleston was my favourite Doctor Who. Yeah, he was quite good, wasn't he? But I really like David Tennant. I really like Matt Smith. I loved Peter Capaldi. I thought Peter Capaldi was really good. I thought he was really, really good. I felt like I wanted to like Jodie Whittaker more than I did because I like her as an actress. I think she's really good. I think she was fantastic in Broadchurch. But as the Doctor, I felt she wasn't very well served by the storylines, maybe. And yeah, there was a bit too much of that sort of eagerness to, excitement about being the Doctor. I think it needed a little bit more cynicism, little tiny bit more cynicism. Having said that, Ncuti Gatwa, I just want to go and party with him. Like I'm watching Doctor Who, and I'm like, sort those aliens, mate. Let's go to a big gay disco in the sky. It sounds awesome, mate. So yeah, my feelings about Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. I think he's done a really good job so far, but I've not seen the sort of darkness to the cynicalness to the character that some of the Doctors gave the role, which I would like to see. I think. Anyway. Super Tiny says, let's say there's a disproportionate amount of kids at boarding school whose folks don't want them around. Yes. Jodie Whittaker was a good Doctor. It was just bad writing for her, in my opinion. I agree, Benjamin, sorry. Colin Baker, my namesake was the worst Doctor. Colin, you take that back. There were no bad Doctors. Well, yeah. Again, Colin Baker wasn't very well served by the fact that Michael Grade was in charge of the BBC at the time. Was it Michael Grade who just wanted to destroy the Doctor Who? He hated Doctor Who, so he moved it to like Tuesday at like 5 o'clock or something shit time zone that time slot that no one in their right mind would watch. Graham, are you speaking at the National Rejoin March on Saturday the 28th of September with Kira Casey Sargent from Stay European and Mike Galsworthy from European Movement? ? Andrew Ray asks. Yes. The answer is yes. Yes, I am speaking at the march. So if you want to come to that, it's the 28th of September in London. It's going to be epic and awesome. Also, I'm just trying to put something together for the Labour Party conference. in Liverpool, and I'll be letting you know. I've mentioned this a couple of times, but we've essentially got the upstairs of this really great little real ale pub in Liverpool. It's about a 15-minute walk from the convention centre. It's quite close to Lime Street Station, and it is. We're going to be doing a panel, I hope, with, and I can't confirm this because we haven't confirmed it yet. But I'm hoping to get Mike Galsworthy, Kira, and Femi to come and talk along with myself about the topic's going to be all roads lead back to the EU. So it'll be a fringe event at the Labour Party conference. Obviously not an official fringe event because you're supposed to organise that like a year in advance, and I haven't. So there you go. Anyway, so look out for that. I'll be doing some advertising about it soon, probably after the weekend. Saw Colin Baker at Con last year, and he was so nice. Oh, that's lovely. Anthony Fisher. Colin Baker does have a bit of a fan base because he's given his work on the big Finnish audio dramas. Same with Paul McGann. Scouse Doctor. Jodie Whittaker was in a film called Take the Block, worth a watch for entertainment. Was it called Take the Block? That's the one where aliens invade, isn't it? And it was written or directed by Joe from Adam and Joe and Edgar Wright, I think. Wasn't it? I don't know. It's a good movie, though. Attack the Block. It's called Attack the Block, I think. But yeah, well worth checking out. It's also got the lad from Star Wars who played Finn in Star Wars. Sylvester McCoy is just an awesome human too. He's so politically intelligent when it comes to battling off the anti-woke and hate. I love the fact that you've got all these like people who watch Doctor Who and go, oh my God, it's so woke. And I'm like, yeah, it literally always was. It's like people complain about Star Trek being woke. Star Trek? You mean the show that had the first interracial kiss on American television back in the 60s? Yeah, it's all gone woke now. The show that had a Russian on the bridge of the USS Enterprise in the 60s at the height of the Cold War. Yeah, it's just gone woke now. They're just pandering to the woke agenda. Okay, if you say so. Anyway, listen, these meandering chats about pop culture and stuff is more something that we should be doing at the In Politics Social tonight. So I'm going to be back with Phil at 1 o'clock for the agenda. He's all married up now, so that's sorted. Normal service has been resumed, and then tonight I'm going to move the time for the Politics Social to 9:30. The reason I'm doing this is because there's a clash at the moment with Maximilian's channel because he does a show from 8:30 to 9:30, and a lot of you I know watch Max's stuff, and I want to watch Max's stuff as well. So if you want an evening of solid political entertainment, I can heartily recommend Aid Thompson, who goes live from 7:30 to 8:30, and then Max from 8:30 to 9:30, and then join us for the Politics Social into the wee small hours, if necessary, as we rip apart what's been happening in the news this week, with, jokes and pop culture and occasionally a beer or two. So please join us for that. You're very welcome to do so. We'll talk about Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, Lord of the Rings, all that jazz. And I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks to everyone dropping comments. They're always welcome. And I'll see you at 1 o'clock, I hope. Give us a like on the way out. And until next time, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.